The little girl's pink backpack sat on the empty chair across from him every Friday night, untouched, perfectly zipped, as if she might walk through the restaurant doors at any second and climb into the seat herself. The waiters stopped asking if someone else was coming months ago. The regular customers barely noticed him anymore. But every Friday at exactly 7 o'clock, the same man walked into the candlelit restaurant wearing the same faded blue jacket, carrying the same worn-out photograph in his wallet, and waiting with eyes fixed on the entrance like hope itself had taken human form. Then one rainy evening, the young CEO who owned the restaurant finally walked over to his table and asked the question nobody else dared to ask. "Who are you still waiting for?" And the answer shattered her heart. If you believe kindness and second chances can change lives, take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to EverKind Stories for more emotional journeys that stay with you long after the video ends. The restaurant sat on the corner of Lexington Avenue, glowing warmly against the cold city nights like a place untouched by loneliness. Inside, soft piano music floated through the air while couples laughed over wine glasses and business executives closed million-dollar deals beneath golden lights. It was elegant without trying too hard, expensive without showing off, and every detail reflected the woman who built it from nothing. Her name was Evelyn Carter. At only 34 years old, Evelyn had become one of the youngest CEOs in the city's hospitality industry. Magazines called her brilliant. Investors called her fearless. Employees called her demanding but fair. But beneath the polished image and designer suits lived a woman who had spent most of her life trying to outrun abandonment. Her father left when she was 9 years old. No goodbye. No explanation. Just one suitcase missing from the hallway and silence filling the apartment afterward. Since then, Evelyn had built her life around one belief: people who truly cared never disappeared. That was why the man at table 17 bothered her so much. For nearly a year, he came every Friday without fail. He ordered the cheapest item on the menu, tipped generously despite obviously struggling financially, and stared at the front entrance for hours. Sometimes he smiled softly at nothing. Sometimes his eyes became glassy with tears he tried desperately to hide. And every single week, the empty seat across from him remained untouched except for the tiny pink backpack resting carefully against the chair. The staff invented stories about him. Some thought he had lost his daughter. Others believed he had been abandoned by his wife. A few whispered that maybe he was mentally unstable, unable to accept reality. But Evelyn noticed something different. Hope. Painful, stubborn, relentless hope. One stormy Friday evening, business had slowed because of the rain hammering against the windows. Evelyn stood near the bar reviewing financial reports when she looked across the restaurant and saw the man again. His hair was damp from the weather, his shoes worn thin, his shoulders heavy with exhaustion. Yet there he sat, staring toward the entrance every few seconds. Then she noticed something that made her chest tighten. In front of the empty chair sat a tiny slice of chocolate cake with one candle glowing softly in the dim light. Nobody came. The candle slowly melted into wax. Still, he waited. Finally, unable to ignore the ache pulling at her heart, Evelyn walked over to table 17 herself. The entire restaurant seemed quieter as she approached him. Up close, he looked older than she expected. Maybe early 40s, though grief had carved extra years into his face. His hands were rough and scarred like someone used to hard labor, and beneath his tired eyes lived a sadness so deep it felt permanent. When Evelyn gently asked who he was waiting for, the man looked at the empty chair for a long moment before answering. His daughter. Her name was Lily. And today was her birthday. Evelyn felt something inside her crack open slightly as the man carefully removed a folded photograph from his wallet. It showed a smiling little girl with curly brown hair sitting on his shoulders at a carnival. She couldn't have been older than 6. The man introduced himself as Daniel Brooks. Then, in the quiet glow of the restaurant lights, he told Evelyn a story she would never forget. 5 years earlier, Daniel had lived a simple but happy life. He worked construction during the day and spent every free moment with Lily afterward. They built blanket forts in the living room, danced while making pancakes, and shared Friday dinners together no matter how tight money became. Friday nights were sacred to them. Then came the accident. A drunk driver ran a red light and slammed into Daniel's truck while Lily sat in the back seat. Daniel survived. Lily did not. The words hit Evelyn like ice water. For a moment, even the restaurant noise disappeared around her. Daniel explained that after the funeral, he completely fell apart. His marriage collapsed under the weight of grief. His wife blamed him for driving that night, and eventually she left the city altogether, unable to survive the memories. Daniel lost his job soon after because he stopped showing up consistently. Depression swallowed everything. But one thing never changed. Every Friday, he came to this restaurant because years ago, when Lily was alive, they had once walked past it together. Lily had pointed excitedly through the windows and told her father that one day she wanted to eat there because it looked like a princess place. Daniel never had enough money to bring her. So after she died, he promised himself he would come every Friday night anyway. He would sit at the table, order dessert for her birthday each year, and keep waiting, because letting go felt too much like losing her again. Evelyn stood frozen beside the table as rain streaked against the windows behind him. Around them, people continued eating, laughing, living ordinary lives completely unaware that one broken father was carrying enough grief to drown a city. That night, after Daniel left, Evelyn couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the empty chair. About the backpack. About the way Daniel still looked toward the entrance every few seconds, as if some part of him truly believed his daughter might walk back into his life. And for the first time in years, Evelyn thought about her own father. Not with anger. With questions. The following Friday, Daniel returned as usual. But this time, something was different. Waiting on the table was a handwritten note beside 2 plates instead of 1. The note simply read, "No one should wait alone." Daniel looked around the restaurant in confusion until Evelyn walked over carrying 2 bowls of soup. That became the beginning of an unexpected friendship. Every Friday after closing hours, Evelyn sat with Daniel and listened to stories about Lily. Stories about missing front teeth and bedtime songs and how she used to wear mismatched socks because she believed matching socks were boring. Slowly, the restaurant transformed from a place of mourning into a place where memories stayed alive. For the first time in years, Daniel started smiling again. Not often. But enough for people to notice. Evelyn noticed something else too. Beneath the grief, Daniel possessed extraordinary kindness. Whenever homeless people passed outside the restaurant, he quietly bought them meals. He remembered every waiter's name. He fixed a broken shelf in the kitchen without being asked. He carried invisible pain every day yet still found ways to make life easier for others. One evening Evelyn asked why he never stopped caring about people after life had treated him so cruelly. Daniel stared thoughtfully at Lily's photograph before answering softly that grief either hardens a heart or teaches it how precious every human being really is. That sentence stayed with Evelyn for weeks. Because despite all her success, Evelyn realized her own heart had become guarded and cold. She trusted contracts more than people. Efficiency more than compassion. She had spent years building walls high enough that nobody could abandon her again. Daniel, somehow, had lost everything and still chose kindness. Winter arrived, covering the city streets in snow. One Friday evening, Daniel didn't come. At first Evelyn assumed the weather delayed him. But 7 o'clock passed. Then 8. Then closing time. The empty table unsettled her more than she expected. The following Friday he still didn't appear. Neither the next. Fear crept into Evelyn's chest. She realized she knew almost nothing about him outside their dinners. No address. No family contacts. Nothing. Finally, after asking around nearby shelters and clinics, Evelyn found him in a small hospital across town. Pneumonia. Severe exhaustion. Malnutrition. The doctor admitted quietly that Daniel had been living out of his truck for nearly 8 months. Evelyn felt physically sick hearing those words. All those nights he had sat across from her smiling gently, never once mentioning he was homeless. Never asking for help. Never complaining. When Daniel woke and saw Evelyn standing beside the hospital bed, tears filled his eyes immediately. Not from embarrassment. From gratitude that someone had actually come looking for him. Nobody had done that in years. Evelyn made a decision that changed both their lives forever. She offered Daniel a job at the restaurant managing maintenance and evening operations. At first he refused, ashamed and convinced he would only become a burden. But Evelyn insisted. She told him the truth, the restaurant had started feeling human again because of him. Slowly, Daniel accepted. Weeks turned into months. His health improved. He rented a small apartment. The exhaustion faded from his face little by little. Staff members who once whispered about the lonely man at table 17 now laughed with him in the kitchen during late-night cleanups. Customers noticed the warmth he carried into every room. And something inside Evelyn healed too. One spring afternoon, she finally gathered enough courage to call her estranged father after 25 years of silence. The conversation was awkward. Painful. Messy. But necessary. For the first time, she learned that her father hadn't left because he stopped loving her. He had left after battling addiction and believing his family deserved better than the destruction he was causing. Shame had kept him away all those years. It didn't erase the hurt. But it changed something. Evelyn realized people disappear for complicated reasons. Some leave because they don't care. Others leave because pain convinces them they no longer deserve love. Daniel taught her that broken people are often still deeply loving people. A year later, on another rainy Friday night, table 17 looked very different. No empty chair waited across from Daniel anymore. Instead, the seat held a little girl from a local foster home named Sophie, who laughed while smearing chocolate cake frosting across her cheeks. Daniel had started volunteering at children's centers during weekends, and Sophie instantly attached herself to him. She loved his stories, his patience, and the way sadness in his eyes made him gentler than most adults. Eventually, Daniel began the process of becoming her foster parent. Evelyn watched from across the restaurant as Sophie handed Daniel a badly drawn crayon picture of the three of them standing together beneath giant hearts. Daniel looked down at the drawing and quietly cried into his hands. Not because he forgot Lily, but because after years of believing life ended with grief, he finally understood something beautiful. Love does not replace the people we lose. It expands because of them. That night, Evelyn walked over to table 17 one last time before closing. She looked at Daniel, then at Sophie happily swinging her legs beneath the chair, and asked softly if he was still waiting for someone. Daniel smiled through tears and glanced upward for a brief moment. Then he said he thought maybe the person he was waiting for had already led him here all along. Outside, rain shimmered beneath city lights while inside the restaurant, warmth filled every corner of the room. The little pink backpack still rested carefully beside the table, not as a symbol of grief anymore, but as proof that love can survive even the darkest tragedies. And somewhere deep in the hearts of everyone who witnessed Daniel's journey, a quiet truth remained. Sometimes the people who seem most alone are carrying enough love to change the lives around them forever. If this story touched your heart, don't leave without liking the video, sharing it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribing to EverKind Stories. Your support helps keep stories of kindness, healing, and second chances alive for people all around the world.
If you believe in kindness, Kindly please subscribe my channel and press the bell icon to get all the notifications. If you like this story, so write a comment below and share with this your friends. Thank you so much for watching.